terms of forcing them to run further with less rest, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They just slow down and slow down and slow down, and there's no way.
So you had no concerns about having to, not being able to drop a dog, or not be able to, or people maybe pushing too hard to get that prize, or even trying to push.
See, there again, I don't know what the pushing too hard really is. I guess. I mean, it has happened where people just don't rest their dogs.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be competitive doing that.
Right. It wouldn't be a winning plan.
There's never been, I don't think there's ever been a reasonable winning plan that involved just not resting.
Right.
We rested quite a bit more than either Jeff or Lance, and got there before them.
Yeah.
So I guess there is a concern that somebody might just go out there and try to not rest, but they wouldn't win.
Right.
As far as dropping dogs, that's just sort of a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
There are checkpoints, so obviously, like what happened to Mike Santos, if you end up carrying 4 dogs, you're going to go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just the way it is.
What did you? How optimistic were you? What did you really think in your heart of hearts? What did you think your chances were to win it?
If I had to bet before the race started, I would have bet I would win.
Really? What about going into the Iditarod? Were you ever that confident?
You can't be that confident. The Iditarod has too many more variables. And part of my confidence on the sweepstakes didn't really pan out. We thought it was going to be miles and miles of really soft trail.
Okay.
And I said, I got these guys.
Oh, okay. So
and it turned out to be mostly really wind blown and hard.
Yeah.
Some of it was soft, and but most of it was a pretty good trail.
Yeah.
So it didn't really fall our way like I thought it would.
Yeah.
But the team just clicked.
Yeah.
So I was really, really comfortable with. Yeah. And you can't say, I know I'm going to win, but it was one of those where I really think that's a good possibility that we could win.
Yeah.
In the Iditarod, I felt a lot more confident than where we placed. Let's put it that way.
That's the roll of the dice. Now, when I always wonder, in sprint racing, you pass a team and you're like, vroom. In distance racing, you got a little time to chit chat, or maybe. And I wrote in my article, I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall to hear what you and Jeff talked about when you went by.
I caught him fairly promptly.
Yeah. Once you got him in sight, you mean?
Yeah. We were gaining pretty hard at that point, and once I passed him, I didn't get away that easily. He had the chase then, but I did pick up minutes each checkpoint every 10 miles or so. You could see that I had more time, but. This is weird to say, but I really felt sorry for him. Yeah. I mean, and I don't mean that in a pathetic way. I mean, I'd hate to have been the guy in the lead.
You could empathize with it because you
he
could see
thought
yourself
he had won. He thought his team was awesome. They were doing great. He had all 13 running. Yeah. He had done it right. Yeah. And here comes some guy going to pass him.
A little more dog power.
I mean, how he must have felt. Yeah. But any conversation I had with him after the race, he was a gentleman about it. It was a good sportsmanship event. But passing, I just pulled up behind him and trail, please. Yeah. And he didn't look or say or speak or anything. He kind of just hit the brake a little bit, and we just went by. Yeah. So, there wasn't much to say.
It was a non-event.
It was a non-event.
Yeah. Well, it's unspoken, right? Yeah. You know how he feels, and he knows how you feel. And he's been in that position before, and you've been in the other position before. It's
what's to say? So I've run him down in other races, and one time in the Cusco, I think it was maybe a minute and a half from catching him. So I mean, it's worked out the other way in the past too, where he stayed ahead, and Jeff's had a wonderful career. I know that was one he really wanted. Yeah. In a way, I feel a little bit like an invader, because I didn't even really decide to run it until even after the Iditarod. We signed up because I thought the deadline was going to be before the Iditarod, but they kept changing things, But we had signed up, but I still wasn't sure I was going to run it. And then I didn't feel the best in Nome, so I thought, well, maybe I'll have Danny run it for me. And then the more we worked on it and got things lined out, the more I realized that our best chance was if I ran the race, and I started feeling pretty good. So, it was kind of a progressive decision, whereas people like Jeff and Lance, they signed up 2 years early and prepared for it, and Yeah. Well,
it certainly was exciting to pay attention to on the internet and all that.
It was the most fun I've ever had, I think, in a race. It
Wow.
was really neat.
That says a lot.
I enjoyed it immensely.
What do you think that was? Was it just the atmosphere around the race, or just the terrain?
It was a good atmosphere because the people
winning doesn't hurt that.
winning is great too. Yeah, but the atmosphere, the people of Nome were so into it, much more than the Iditarod.
Wow.
It was their race.
Yeah.
And then they had
started and finished it.
They had done it, financed it and to an extent, and put all the trail work and everything. So the people in Nome were really into it.
Yeah, they owned it.
And then my team was just, I had so much confidence in that team, though it was a smaller team. It's just fun running a really nice dog team. You know, even if you don't win, that's fun. When it just goes well and they run well and they do their job, and you know. And then, having the pit crew out there was awesome.
Right.
You got your buddies to talk to. You know, the rules were, no help or coaching or pacing between checkpoints, but at the checkpoints they can do everything. And you got people to talk to, and and they can do your chores. You get a little more sleep than you would.
Right.
It's just a nice race that way.
Do you think that's a format, the pit crew aspect or parts of that aspect could be adopted by any of the other long distance races?
I think it could be. I think it would be it'd be fun to have races like that. I would hate to see that take over the other races maybe.
Because it would add so much, you'd need so much more resources to do it well.
It takes a lot more resources, and I think there's a tremendous amount of our sport that's involved in the musher doing everything.
Right.
That's a part of the challenge and part of the contest.
Part of the
But
allure.
on the other side of it, I think it's really good for the dogs.
Yeah.
They get much better care, and I shouldn't say that in the sense that they don't get good care.
Right.
What I mean is that it's done so much more quickly that the resting time is more valuable for them. Like I mentioned to you earlier, when 3 people can do the chores and be done feeding the dogs and they're sleeping in 20 or 25 minutes, that's a lot better than we're going to do by ourselves.
Musher having to cut his own rest to do it too. Yeah, that's another reason why I could never do long distance much. The sleep deprivation alone. Maybe the serum run.
Sleep deprivation is the most difficult part of the race for
I could see that.
for a musher.
Yeah, I could see that.
Hence, I think I'm one of the advocates that the Iditarod do more to enforce their drug policy.
Right.
Because I can't imagine, I can't cite any details, but I can't imagine that you're going to have 96 or 100 teams out there and nobody's using anything
stronger than a cup of coffee.
Stronger than coffee to stay awake.
Yeah,
so I think there is some of that in the sport.
Yeah, but they don't do any testing on humans now because they don't consider it a human.
Well, and
it's taxing on the humans.
Yeah, but my disappointment is that it's spelled out in the rules, and it's there, but they don't test, so therefore they don't know. So therefore they don't know if anybody's violating anything. It's to be the only major sport I can think of that doesn't have that to deal with. So yeah, staying awake's a big deal.
Yeah, man, that's interesting. Yeah, cool. Well, Mitch, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. We got a lot more than.